Suns fans, this is Suns Latest. I am Rich Rubin. Apologies for being a little bit late today. I wanted to talk about last night's preseason game, and I felt it was important to make sure that we're as up to date as possible. Let's start with our quote of the day. It is from Devin Booker, the Suns. Quote, "It's good to get the team away from our normal comfort zone and get on the road together before we start the season. I think it builds a lot of camaraderie, and we can start building chemistry." That is from our leader, Devin Booker, and I like the idea that he's talking about the team, not just about himself, not that he has ever been considered a selfish player, but there is that element of when you have a guy like Booker who can win games for you and will probably be relied on more than ever in his entire career this upcoming season. It's important that his head is right and that he's thinking about not just what the Suns have to do to win a game, but what the team needs in general. And getting away to China and splitting the preseason games with the Nets, one of the best things you can do. You want to get to know somebody, travel with them. In fact, travel with somebody you're not too crazy about. You will come home with a completely different relationship. Okay, so I'm just jonesing to get to this final preseason game that the Suns played last night at the very first game at Mortgage Matchup Center. Not the arena, but with its name, which means nothing. Anyway, Lakers, no LeBron, but Luka Doncic played and scored 25 points, and Austin Reeves had a good game, and that's pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive. Oh, by the way, the Suns' Jared Butler scored 35 points and had 7 rebounds and 9 assists on 56% shooting from the field and from three-point line, and he had no turnovers. Do I have to repeat that? Did you watch the game? Did you see the frozen rope threes? Did you see the hesitation? Did you see the floaters? Did you see the spin moves in the paint? Did you see how he didn't really get any foul calls when Marcus Smart desperately tried to guard him, or anybody else in the Lakers tried to desperately guard him and stop him? No one could stop Jared Butler. Jared Butler was picked up, I'm not going to say as an afterthought, but there's a whole, not a lot of teams were interested in him coming into this season because of injuries and not really knowing kind of how he fit. But this guy is clearly a shooting point guard. Exactly what we've been needing. So, with no Jalen Green, who's got an aggravating hammy injury, and he's not going to even make the first game of the regular season, well, what do you know? We got a guy like Jared Butler, the other backup point guard. These are the backups. These are the guys that are supposed to fight for like the 7th and 8th spot or the 9th spot on the team. Jordan Goodwin, who I personally have always liked, 24 points. Once again, the Suns resting Devin Booker, resting Dylan Brooks without Mark Williams, Jalen Green, Grayson Allen, Colin Gillespie, Nick Richards, a few others. They rested everybody. Came from way behind again. The Suns hung around and they won the game again and beat the Lakers for the second time in the preseason, 113-104. It was the last preseason game. Suns finished 3-1, and they only lost, the one game that they lost was by 2 points to the Nets. Butler shoots frozen rope threes, clearly intended to make up for the loss of Devin Booker for the game. The lane spinners, I love. The floaters, the confidence with which he had. He was so patient. He took so much time. I have a feeling, once again, the Suns training staff has found a way to work with a guy who probably was tentative, not wanting to re-injure himself, wanting to prolong his career, and he has probably been working with them because he looked like there wasn't a single problem going on. He looked like a 5-6 year veteran and 3 or 4 time All-Star last night. I know it's the preseason, but he did have Marcus Smart guarding him. If it's any indication, we just got a really good player. Shot clock buzzer beaters. Did I mention it was 0 turnovers? It was a show from Jared Butler. Absolutely incredible. Rookie Rasheer Fleming out-hustles everybody he plays. He made some beautiful defensive plays. He's not there yet. He's really raw. But the instinct to go get the ball and to defend and to swat is there. And in spot minutes his rookie season, as he gets more confident, Rasheer Fleming is going to be a nice pickup. Jordan Goodwin with 24 points. It's the second time he had 19 in the second game against the Nets. The first time the Suns played the Nets. Jordan Goodwin's Laker replacement Marcus Smart didn't score. Laker coach J.J. Redick said that he loved coaching Jordan Goodwin when he was Laker. Quote, "To me, he's an NBA player, and I think every coach in the league would love to have a guy like him. No nonsense, plays hard, great teammate," end quote. We got Jordan Goodwin and Jared Butler. This is crazy. Kaman Malowich posted 17 points, 8 rebounds, 3 steals, and 2 blocks as a starter, going head-to-head with the former Sun DeAndre Ayton. Ayton had a pretty good game. I'll admit when Ayton has a good game, he just doesn't make a significant contribution when you need him. His stats are always relatively decent. Kobe Brea shot 2 for 12, but showed decent passing. He showed that he's a really good teammate. He will get there. He is that talented. Grayson Allen, Ryan Dunn, also Colin Gillespie, O'Neal, Nick Richards, all rested. Suns kick off the regular season Wednesday, October 22nd at Phoenix Arena against the Kings. Without Jalen Green, Mark Williams is a question mark. Really nice preseason for the Suns. And I know it's preseason, but let's just be honest with ourselves. We need any positive mojo we can get. And going into the regular season, playing the way a lot of no-name players played in the regular season is a big, big freaking deal for the Phoenix Suns. And you should be pretty excited if you're a Suns fan. And if you're watching this, you better be a Suns fan. All right, comments, not a whole lot because we got to get to the greatest Phoenix Sun of all time, BYB Boxing. I keep saying this. With Brooks, Allen, and Dunn, we have some dogs on defense. Fleming, too. They will help the whole team get better. Hammered on PHX. There's going to be a lot of growing pains with this young roster. Could have fooled me last night. We're going to be tough. We're going to be a tough out. No one wants to play. Not a betting man, but I would take the over. Go Suns. Andrew Ruiz. Time will tell, but I think Book will be great. Brooks and Dunn will be a lot of fun to watch. My eyes are on Man and Rashir's development. Also, really, really want to see Oso have a great year. Curious to see how Coach is going to use Brea as well. Going to be a fun and frustrating season. You just said a mouthful. It's going to be fun, and it's going to be frustrating. Mr. DeCasso, I love your emphasis on how we have a defensive scheme finally with Brooks. We have a defensive thinking team. We have schemes. We have ways to play different teams defensively, which I can't remember the last time we had that or even needed it. We were usually just running over them. But this team's going to need communication like crazy on defense. Also, it's good to see the team's cohesion as that was missing the last few years overall. When you get a young team, there's just, if you got some decent young guys, it's just going to be a happier place to be. Simple as that. Lastly, I understand Jalen Green is not playing so far, as we all know. Hammy leads to that dreaded Achilles tear. Great video today. Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, so the Suns cannot have Jalen Green not available. I know we looked great last night. It's preseason. Remember, we're riding that balance. But it's really important that he's ready and good to go and healthy when we need him because I don't want Bradley Beal again. A lot of you mentioned that in the comments, and I'm right there with you. We just can't have it. We're going to need Jalen Green, if not as a player, if not as a good locker room guy. I don't know what his attitude is, as a good trade bait. We're going to need him in some capacity. Excuse me. All right, so, well, it is time to get to the number one greatest Phoenix Suns player of all time. And there wasn't a lot of pushback when it came down to this guy. Number 13, Steve Nash, the greatest Sun ever. Number one on our top 15 list. It's Nash, 6'3", 178 pounds, out of Santa Clara, drafted by the Suns in '96 with the 15th pick. And like Dan Marley, was booed by Suns fans on draft day. Nash had an impressive college career, but no one knew him or knew of Santa Clara or where it was. Santa Clara is just about an hour and 45 minutes north on the 101 or PCH from here. Tiny town, tiny school, cool area. But nobody knew they had a basketball team. By the way, Steve Nash went to Santa Clara. Oscar-winning actor Mahershala Ali played against him at one of the other schools in college, which I found out that a few years ago, but I thought it was a trip. So I'm watching a clip, and I'm watching this guy guard Steve Nash, and I go, ooh, that looks like the guy from Moonlight, and it was Mahershala Ali. So Steve Nash played against Mahershala Ali in college, except in '93, number 15 seed at Santa Clara, led by Nash, knocked off tournament favorite number 5 seed Arizona in the first round of the NCAA tournament. And I remember seeing that game live, and I'm like, how is that little guy doing that? That little guy was in for a lot more. As a rookie, he watched Cassell, Jason Kidd, and KJ get most of the minutes at point guard. His minutes went up in the second season, showed signs of how good he could be, but the Suns traded him to Dallas for, ready? Listen to the haul we got for Steve Nash. Martin Mursep, Bubba Wells, the draft rights to Pat Garrity, and a first-round pick. Oh, by the way, the first-round pick we got for Nash became his teammate Sean Marion. So it was a good thing that we traded Nash in the beginning. With Dirk, former son Michael Finley, new owner Mark Cuban, Nash started becoming what many thought he could be, an all-star point guard who could run a team, a few more all-star nods, twice selected to the All-NBA third team as a Maverick. The Mavs did well in the playoffs. They just couldn't get over the hump. They were also dealing with the Shaquille O'Neal Lakers and the Tim Duncan Spurs. It's really strange how good Nash was with the Mavericks. And he was a top 15 player with the Mavericks. He was pushing superstar status. When you're top 15, you're superstar. Well, okay, you're big star. Top 10 is superstar, I guess. But you forget Nash and Dirk were really doing a good job with the Mavericks. But after 03-04, Nash becomes a free agent. He is now 30 years old. And a lot of people said, well, if he was going to be greater than he is, it would have happened by now. And that's a fair assumption. And Antoine Walker, Michael Finley, Dirk Nowitzki, and Antoine Jamison were making around $50 million combined. Remember, this is the early aughts, so that was a ton of money. Cuban wanted to build around Dirk. He was younger, not Steve Nash. He offered Nash $9 million a year for 4 years, partially guaranteed fifth year. The Suns offered a 6-year, $63 million contract. Nash didn't want to leave Dallas. He went to Cuban. He said, will you please match the deal? I like what we got going here. And Cuban said no. Steve Nash was a Phoenix Sun again. So he returns to the Suns, joins the pick he helped get in Sean Marion. Now he has ISO Joe Johnson, and he has Amari Stoudemire, who is rising. We won 29 games the year with those guys without Nash. I'm sorry, no Joe Johnson either. Coach Mike D'Antoni shows up, realized we had some freakish athletic wings in Marion, and Amari puts in the up-tempo offense with the idea that his Suns are just going to outrun and outshoot everybody. And in his first game back with the Suns, Steve Nash went for 22, 18 assists, and 4 steals in a 122-111 win over the Clippers. Charles Barkley, first game with the Suns, he had like 37 points and 15 rebounds, or 22 rebounds, and like 9 assists against the Clippers. So thank you for being the LA Clippers. Nash did that pretty much every single game for his first year back with the Suns. Best ever record at the time, 62-20, 33 game improvement. Highest team scoring average in a decade. Nash had 11.5 assists, 43% of his threes, 50% from the field, and edged out Shaquille O'Neal for league MVP, the second Sun ever to win MVP. It was nuts in Phoenix. It was Charles Barkley buzz all over again. Everybody knew who Nash was. The whole state rallied around the Suns. The league really, really got into Steve Nash. He absolutely became the face of the league. They were the team to beat. And at any given point, they could outrun any team. No one could keep up with them. Suns beat the Mavs 4-2 in the Western Conference semifinals. And you know Mark Cuban, for that moment, was in his feelings. Lost to the friggin' Spurs in 5 games in the Western Conference finals, but no one thought it was going to be that good. Nobody thought the Suns were going to get over 60 wins and almost make the finals. It was such an amazing year. It was so much fun. Steve Nash does that. That is what a 30-year-old point guard who was left for dead by the Mavericks does. And the Suns training staff as well. 54-28 the next year. Stat was injured. ISO Joe and Quentin Richardson left. Nash continues running over the league. Suns win the division. Highest scoring team in the league again. Nash led the league in free throw percentage and assists. And I think he was the first player to ever do that, or he was like one of 2 or 3. League MVP again. First time the Suns had ever had a back-to-back MVP. And there's only a handful of back-to-back MVPs in NBA history. Many felt Nash's second MVP was even more hard-earned as he improved his stats across the board with less to work with the Suns with stat out. And ISO Joe gone had to do a whole lot more with so many important players from the year before unavailable. Lost to the Mavs in the conference finals. Don't worry. The Mavs didn't win the title. 18-11 the next year. The most votes for first-team All-NBA, second in MVP voting to former teammate Dirk for MVP. Dirk deserved MVP. Bill Simmons had a really interesting quote about Nash's third year. Quote, Nash's third year with the Suns was his best. He seemed to be tougher. He seemed to be more pissed off. His numbers went up. And yes, Dirk deserved MVP, but if Nash had won a third in a row, I wouldn't have been surprised. He was that good, end quote. Beat the Lakers in 5 in the semis. Lost to the Spurs again in the Western Conference final. And that was the year the Suns were the best team in the league and deserved to go to the finals. But Coach Pop and Robert Horry, and we've been through this, and it still pisses me off. But David Stern is dead. Just a reminder. 50-40-90 the following season. Shaq comes to Phoenix. We lose in the first round of the freaking Spurs. Nash is all-NBA second team and an all-star. The next year, D'Antoni leaves. Terry Porter shows up, gets fired. Suns miss the playoffs for the first time. Nash is there. Not Nash's fault. Did everything he could. 2010, Suns come back strong, start 8-1. This was kind of the last hurrah with Nash. All-star again, highest scoring team in the league, 5th year in a row under underrated head coach Alvin Gentry. Finally get past the Spurs with a 4-0 sweep in the semis, but lose to the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. The Suns had a really good shot that year as well. Revamped the whole team except Nash the following year, and the Suns missed the playoffs. The writing was on the walls. Nash, who was always dealing with back issues, was finally showing some age. He was still Steve Nash, all-star, passed Oscar Robertson for career assists. shot 52% from the field. A sign and trade deal saw Nash leave the Suns for the Lakers the following year. Retired in March 15th, 2015, even though the Cavs and the Mavericks asked him to sign with them, and he was done by the time he finished with the Lakers. You could see it. He was with the Suns from '96 to '98, then back to the Suns from '04 to 2012. Steve Nash is synonymous with the Suns, probably more than any player in Suns history, and that includes Dick Van Arsdale. That includes Connie Hawkins. Yeah, if you ask the people about about the Suns right now, they'll probably think Steve Nash. More recently, Devin Booker, but they'll probably think of Steve Nash first. He was that important to the franchise, and it's arguable. But I think Charles Barkley still had the greatest single season in Suns history, but Nash had the greatest prolonged career with the Suns, and I'll argue that against anybody. He meant and he means so much to the Suns. He put us on the map consistently for about a decade. Even when we didn't make the playoffs, Nash was usually number 2 or 3 on ESPN highlights. The sports world wanted to know what was happening with the Steve Nash Suns. The 7 seconds or less Suns became a thing, and they changed the game. No Warriors with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson without the 7 seconds or less Steve Nash-led Suns. That is huge. He was electric for 8 years. A day didn't go by during the NBA season where there wasn't a Nash highlight. He was responsible for 7 of his teammates attaining career highs in season scoring. Bill Russell said of Steve Nash, quote, "I'm a big fan. The 2 MVPs he got, he deserved. Part of the reason he's so good and so effective is that the guys like playing with him. He creates an atmosphere where they win games," end quote. Coming from Bill Russell, who that's the only thing Russell believed in, being a good teammate. You don't get higher praise than that. 3-time All-NBA, first team as a Sun, 2-time second team All-NBA as a Sun, 6-time All-Star as a Sun, 5-time NBA assist leader, all with the Suns, second highest free throw percentage in NBA history, fifth all-time in assists. The only player in NBA history with more than 2 50-40-90 seasons. He did it 4 times. The other guys who he doubled are Bird and KD. Number 13 retired by the Suns. Ring of Honor, Basketball Hall of Fame. The greatest Phoenix Sun of all time is your Suns legend of the day, and that would be Mr. Steve Nash, MVP 13. Appreciate you watching. Regular season is right around the corner. This has been Suns Latest. I'm Rich Rubin. We'll do it again.